Here on my channel, we're all about leveling up your money and your life. And sometimes that comes with being able to take a bad situation and turn it around. And so today we're talking about 3 really practical things that you can do right now to start really getting your stress around money under control. And first and foremost, thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. We're growing a really great community here of people who are just leaving some wonderful comments about their experiences with building their wealth, working towards financial independence. So if you haven't already subscribed, please consider joining us and hit that subscribe button. Leave me comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. But let's get started, because I hope that you're not experiencing stress about money, but it is definitely something that most of us experience throughout our lives, kind of on and off. Where we might go through situations, whether that's a life event or a job change or a job layoff, where we have like an acute money stress, and then sort of the chronic money stress that can just sort of run in the back of your mind. Questions like, do I have enough for retirement? What if I have a health problem? What if I lose my job? What if, something happens if my partner's the one making the money in the family? What if something happens to their job? So it can kind of be this like low-grade chronic stress around money as well. It can also unfortunately contribute to a lot of relationship stress. Stress around money and disagreements around money are usually in the top 10 causes of divorce every single year. So it's just something that's really important to get a hold on. And I hope you're not experiencing money stress right now. But if you are, I hope that these points really help you start to feel a little bit better and a little bit more in control of your finances, and to just feel like you can just take a deep breath and exhale and be able to kind of center yourself, ground yourself, and have some practical things to work through. So let's dive right into what you can do if you're feeling really stressed about your money right now. And these are all things I've used myself, so I know these work, because I've had a lot of different times in my life where I've dealt with money stress on and off, and so these are just things that I personally use. And if you have other things that I don't mention here, please let me know in the comments what other things are helpful for you as well, because I'd love to hear from you too in the comments. So number 1 is to take stock of the situation, because sometimes it's really helpful to just say, okay, how bad is this situation really? And then sometimes you write down like your debt, your income, your expenses, and you're like, wow, this is really bad, because actually I'm physically like not bringing in enough money right now to cover all of my expenses. And this is a really stressful situation. I've been there. So that is not much fun, but at least if you sit down and figure it out, you know exactly what you're dealing with. Then on the other side, your situation might not be as bad as what you're thinking. And when you sit down and write everything out and get it all down on paper in black and white, then you might feel like, oh, okay, this was more just needing to sit down and actually get everything written down and get a plan, and it's not as bad as I was thinking. So either way, getting it down on pen and paper is really important. So grab yourself a notebook or a piece of paper, grab yourself a pen, and here's what I want you to do. So first of all, I want you to write down all of your outstanding debts. So write down every last loan that you have: student loans, credit card debt, car loans, mortgage, the list goes on and on of things that we've got debt over. And so write down each one, write down the interest rate that you're paying on the loan, and then write down your monthly payment. So the minimum monthly payment that is due on each loan. So that's the first sheet, is all your debt. The second thing I want you to do is to write down all of your income. So this is all the income that's coming in for your family. So if you're single, this is obviously just your paycheck from your job, or if you've got a side job, jot that down as well. And then the income, maybe if you're in a partner or have a spouse or a partner, put down your spouse's income, your partner's income as well, just all the money that's coming into your household each and every month. Write that down and get a grand total of what that number looks like. So that's page 2. Page 3 then is what you want to do is write down all of your bills. So everything that you have to pay every month that you have to pay. So we're talking food, we're talking gas, we're talking groceries, insurance deductibles, insurance premiums, all these, utility bills, this sort of thing. So all the things that you can't live without, right? And then on the fourth page, is that right? We've got loans, income, bills, yes. And then on the fourth page, jot down what I like to call discretionary purchases, fun money, things like that, and all the things you spend on every month that is just completely discretionary that you could do without. So this might be magazine subscriptions. It might be, and really get like strict about this, right? We're talking TV subscriptions, streaming services. We're talking eating out, like things you can actually do without. It might feel like you can't do without them, but you could technically do without them in a pinch. So once you've got those 4 pages, you've got your debt, you've got your income, you've got all your must-have bills, and then you've got your discretionary spending. That's going to give you a very clear picture of where you are. And congratulations, you just made a budget, by the way, because that is exactly what the preliminary steps of budgeting is. And I've got an entire playlist down in the description on budgeting as well. But that's the place you start when you're building a budget, is figuring out how much is coming in, how much is going back out, and then identifying if you have enough money coming in to cover all your expenses. For example, if you don't, that's a whole other can of worms, right? Because then you're just trying to figure out how to either cut your expenses or raise your income, or some combination of both. A lot of times it's figuring out how to make more income while also reducing some of those discretionary expenses that you can reduce. And so I have a whole bunch of videos down below about like very specific, granular, step-by-step, like how to budget in Excel type stuff of the budget I use that you can watch down below. But this is just kind of from a 30,000 foot perspective of, okay, like how bad is the situation really? Because now you can see, okay, I have like a ton of debt and I have income and it's covering the debt, and it's maybe the debt payments and it's covering maybe like my bills, but then I don't have anything left for discretionary. And maybe that's your situation. Maybe your situation's different. And so then it's really just about having that honest conversation with yourself about, what am I going to do about this? Like, what's the best thing to do? If you have a huge amount of debt and it is causing you a massive amount of stress, I'd really recommend that you talk to a debt counselor. There are a lot of great free resources for that, of people that you can speak with about having to get your debt paid off, get a grip on it, have it not ruin your life. So I'll link to those resources down below. You can work with a finance coach, a financial advisor, to be able to figure out kind of how to manage the money flowing into your household and then the money flowing back out, and try to make sure that it's not all flowing back out without you, having any idea about where it's flowing to. And that unfortunately, a lot of it's probably not like flowing to savings or flowing into retirement. And so just being able to have that 4 pages, though, of very good, clear lists will just help you to kind of be able to get a little bit less stressed out about your finances, hopefully, because you can just see exactly where you are at a glance, get it all out in black and white. And that can be very, very helpful. I know it's always been very helpful for me when I sit down and do that exercise. The second thing after you have gotten those 4 pages out of your system is to start coming up with a strategy, with a game plan of what you're going to do. So like we said, if debt is like a huge, massive, stressful thing and you've got no earthly idea how the heck you're going to pay it off, check out some of the resources below about working with a debt counselor, because they specifically help with that scenario of, you got into a lot of debt and maybe it was like completely out of your hands. Maybe you had a humongous health problem that you ended up with a huge amount of medical debt. I mean, medical debt is like bankrupting households across the country as we speak right now. It's the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, which is insane. Insane. I mean, I won't get on my soapbox now about the health insurance situation in this country. But anyway, from a financial perspective, it's a nightmare. And so, a lot of times I think that when I hear people in the finance space, other financial professionals talk about their clients with debt, they can be pretty condescending and be like, oh, they only have debt because they're so irresponsible with their money. No, you can have debt and be the most responsible person on the planet if you have something that happens to you, unfortunately, that you just had to pay for and take out big loans to deal with. So just because you have debt does not mean you're financially irresponsible. You're obviously financially responsible because you're here watching this video and educating yourself, connecting with people in our community here in the comments who are also working on leveling up their money and their life. So thank you so much for being here. But this is really important, is just to come up with a strategy that's like not, and also too, by the way, as you look at hiring professionals, whether this is a debt counselor, financial advisor, finance coach, and so forth, if you ever come across anyone who makes you feel ashamed of your situation, just run. Like run, don't walk away from those people. I very much have had that situation twice now where I have reached out over the course of my life, especially when I was younger, to financial professionals, financial advisors who I had access through work and so forth when I was trying to figure out how to budget and do all this stuff. And they basically shamed me for not being more financially responsible. And that's completely inappropriate. It's unprofessional. I have a lot I could say about that perspective. Financial skills are something that you learn, you're not born with. So there's no point in shaming people for things they never learned. Like, that's my perspective. So long story short, just kind of come up with that strategy of what's your biggest problem. Is your biggest problem that you've got a lot of debt? And is it that you couldn't help, or is it that you could help? Like maybe you're just buying like way more house or way more cars or way more stuff. You're putting too much stuff on your credit cards. Maybe it's debt by choice, if you want to think about it that way. And you're just having a lifestyle that's kind of oriented around debt instead of moving towards a debt-free lifestyle where you can experience financial freedom and financial independence, which is freedom from debt, among other things. So it's just really good to kind of think through a strategy. If your biggest problem is that you just physically are not making enough money, then get creative about how can you bring in more money. There are probably millions of videos on YouTube and millions of podcasts about people who are sharing their stories about how they figured out how to make more money in so many different industries, in side gigs, in like all kinds of different stuff. So the sky's the limit in terms of the research you can do on figuring out how to bring in more income. I'll link to a couple of videos in the description box that I made a couple months ago about just kind of brainstorming 100 different ways to bring in more money for yourself and your family. I will link to that in the description so you can watch that as well. But just having that strategy, once you've got those 4 pages, don't stop there. Just kind of start to come up with a strategy of what's the best thing for you. Is it to start paying down debt? Is it to start bringing in more income? Is it to get a control of your discretionary spending and try to reduce that? Maybe eat out less for a while you figure out, how to put some of that money you were spending on eating out over into debt repayment, or whatever the case might look like for you, just being able to see. And then obviously too, like your ultimate goal is to then be able to make sure that you're putting money into savings, putting money into retirement. But if you're watching this video, my guess is that you're probably not too worried about savings and retirement right now. You're probably just worried about how to get by day to day. So if that's you, don't stress out about that too much right this minute. What I want you to do is just really figure out how you can start to get a hold of your day-to-day finances, and then little by little continue to build towards having like a little bit of emergency savings, or start to do research on kind of what you want to do with your retirement plan and start to maybe contribute a little bit to your 401k program. If your employer has a matching 401k retirement plan, for example, open an IRA, things like that. But that's maybe like a couple of steps down the road. So right now, I just want you to focus on getting those 4 pieces of paper filled out: your debt, your income, all the income coming in, your bills, and your discretionary. Come up with your strategy of kind of where you're going to start. If you need to hire some people or find some free counseling services, go watch some videos on YouTube completely for free about different topics. If you're looking to make more money, pay off debt, etc. So many people all over the internet who are sharing great strategies that have worked for them. I always like to see those videos where it's like, I did this and this worked for me, because it's like it comes out of like, gets out of the theoretical and comes down to like the practical. And if you can then see what they're doing and they explain it in a way you can replicate, then it often will work for you too. So number 2 is strategy. And then the third one is to take that first small step. So once you've come up with your 4-page plan, which is like your mini budget, you've got your strategy, then what I want you to do is take your first step. And again, we are not talking about, you've just decided I'm going to be debt free. Woohoo. And then like 2 days later, you're just back to doing what you did before. No, that's not what I want you to do. What I want you to do is to just come up with the first small step you can take. So let's say your problem is debt. Maybe you research debt counselors and find somebody that you can talk with who is going to be able to help you work through kind of a payoff strategy for that, or maybe through your bank. A lot of banks have financial advisors that you can work with completely for free through your bank. I know the one we are with definitely has that. And so maybe your bank has a financial advisor you can talk to about your situation. You can just say, hey, I'd really like to talk to someone. Do you have a financial advisor available that I can speak with as part of my membership in this bank? So you can check that out as well. You can hire a financial professional. You can hire a finance coach, whatever it looks like if you feel like you need to speak with someone about that. If you're looking at your situation and you've already got a pretty good feel for what you need to do differently, then maybe just like identify what's that first step. So let's say you are not bringing in enough income right now. Do you need to look into leveling up your skill sets so that you can make more money professionally? Do you need to look into maybe asking for a raise at work or pitching for a raise? Do you need to look at maybe training into a different industry? If the industry you're in, maybe there's just no real future for making a lot more money. There's a lot of industries that people work in that really have a ceiling on how much you're ever going to be able to make. And maybe you want to make more. And so maybe it's the time to start looking into, do you want to train and transition to another career field, for example? And then the list goes on and on. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but the list goes on and on of all the different things that you can kind of start to take that first small step in. Maybe you've identified that your discretionary spending is the culprit. And so you just need to basically dial back some of your fun money spending and some of your fun spending. And I know it's like, oh, like, I don't want to do that. That's so like uncomfortable, whatever. But it's like, well, how much do you want your money stress to go away? Because you can be stressed about money the rest of your life if you don't start to take steps, and have arguments with your spouse about money the rest of your marriage, or arguments with your partner the rest of the time you're together. Or you can come up with a strategy and a game plan and start taking steps in the right direction and start to diffuse that tension for yourself and the people that you're managing money with in your life. So it's really just a choice of kind of what you are willing to do to be able to start moving forward out of the situation that you're in. And especially if you're new to finance, this will not happen overnight. This is like a process that takes time, and it's just kind of trying things, seeing what works, identifying some little steps that you want to take, and then just kind of building on those, moving forward a little bit at a time. And then as you continue to build your strategy, as you continue to take small steps in the right direction, you'll start to build mastery over your personal finances. And that feels really, really good. Trust me. I started from scratch. I did not know anything about personal finance. I had no formal training in finance. I had worked in banking and insurance a little bit, but not in the sense of how to manage my money, how to build my wealth, how to get to financial freedom myself. And so as you begin to figure out how to change your mindset around money, how to maybe move from, always being in debt to figuring out how to be mostly debt free, maybe plus or minus your mortgage or something like that. But as you start to move through these stages and just build on your little steps in the right direction at a time, it just feels really good because you build confidence in an area that I would say probably 9/10 of people do not have confidence around money and around personal finance. It's an area that's very stressful for most people because we're not taught these skills. And so we have to go learn them on the fly. And it's so easy to get into debt, unfortunately. It's a lot easier to get into debt than it is to get out of debt. We live in this hyper consumer culture that really puts a lot of pressure on us to like buy, and whether or not we can afford it. And then a lot of competition because we see people on social media going on vacations and doing this and that. And those are all great. And if you have the money to do it, like do it, enjoy it, like don't worry about it. But for people that don't have the money to do it, then it can kind of build a lot of resentment and stress and so forth. So we just live in this culture today where we're basically being kind of like incentivized to do the wrong things in terms of like get ourselves into debt and hyper consume, and we're not incentivized to do the right things for us, which is right. It's like saving, it's like retirement, so that we're not like homeless when we're at retirement age and wondering what we're going to do. And being able to build that financial freedom and that financial independence and build that good, solid foundation. So you're taking the first step by watching this video. So hats off to you. I hope this was helpful and enjoyable. Again, those 3 steps that I want you to take to manage your stress today is to write down that 4-page sheet of your debt, your income, your bills, and your discretionary spending, your fun money spending. Then get a strategy in place, reach out for professional advice if you need it, and then start just with one small step. Start making like a little bit of principal only payment or extra credit card payment. Start looking for like a way to make an extra $100 a month. Something really manageable. We'll just think about like a micro goal. We're not talking huge goals here. I mean, this is not about becoming an overnight millionaire and being financially independent tomorrow. No, like think about like how can you make an extra maybe $100 a month if you need to bring in more income, or look at your discretionary expenses and say like, what's one thing that I can do without as I'm trying to put more money towards debt payment, for example, or put more money towards savings or put more money towards retirement planning. What's like one thing that I can do without that's not going to kill me, right? Like what's one thing? And it's just temporary, because as you figure out how to do all this stuff, manage your debt, make more money, and have a good game plan, you'll be able to get to the point where you can afford everything you want to. But it just really starts with building that solid foundation now. You're doing that by watching this video. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't subscribed already and you're enjoying this, please hit the subscribe button and help me as I'm growing my channel. And I will see you again soon in my next video.